The new teacher arrived on a quiet Monday morning, her steps soft but confident as she walked across the old stone pathway that led to Brookdale High's main building. Her name was Miss Evelyn Hale, a woman in her late 20s with calm grey eyes and tied-back auburn hair. She carried a leather folder against her chest and breathed slowly, preparing herself for her first day in a school notorious for one thing: its privileged, power-drunk troublemakers. She had read about them, heard about them. She knew the stories, students who got away with anything because of rich families and connections. But she never imagined her first day would test her strength so brutally. At first glance, everything looked normal. A few students rushed across the courtyard, others lounged near the fountain laughing loudly. But then she noticed a group standing near the far side of the campus, 4 boys and 2 girls clustered in a tight circle, whispering, smirking, and throwing glances her way. Damien Crowe, the unofficial leader, stood in the middle. 17, tall, athletic, rich, and utterly convinced the world existed to entertain him. He wore a designer jacket, spotless white sneakers, and a grin that made Evelyn's stomach tighten, not because she feared him, but because she recognized the type. People who believed cruelty was a game. His second-in-command, Jordan Hale, not related to her, leaned on a railing, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. The girls, Ava and Brielle, watched with mocking amusement. They all looked at her as if she were a target that had just stepped into their hunting ground. But Evelyn kept walking, shoulders relaxed, steps steady. She reminded herself of the training that lived beneath her calm exterior. Years of discipline, years of martial arts, sweat, bruises and victories. A black belt, yes, but not the kind she flaunted. Not the kind she used to intimidate. It was a part of her, a silent force she carried as naturally as her own heartbeat. She greeted a few students along the way, but before she reached the building she heard a whistle behind her. "Hey, new teacher!" Damien called out. She paused, turned. The group approached her slowly, spreading out like predators circling prey. "You lost?" Damien asked. "Teachers usually enter from the front door. That way." He pointed behind her as if she were a clueless tourist. Evelyn smiled politely. "I appreciate the guidance, but I'm quite aware of the layout. Have a good morning, Damien." He blinked, surprised she knew his name. Jordan smirked. Ava snickered, and Damien stepped closer. "Look at you," he said mockingly, acting all confident. "You'll learn real fast how things work here." Evelyn held his stare, calm, unshaken. "And you'll learn how I work, too." The courtyard grew strangely quiet. A few nearby students slowed down, sensing tension. Damien didn't like being talked back to, especially not by someone new, especially not by a teacher who didn't fear him. But Evelyn turned away, walked toward the building, refusing to feed the ego he was desperate to inflate. That made him angrier. Within seconds he whispered something to his group. Something Evelyn didn't hear, something the others reacted to with the kind of laughter that made her chest tighten, a cruel, delighted sound. She reached the stairway leading to the side entrance, and just as she stepped up, she felt something slam into her back, hard. Her folder flew from her hands. Her body lurched forward, and then, splash. Cold, thick mud swallowed her knees, her arms, her clothes, her hair. She gasped as the shock ran through her. Students nearby froze. Some covered their mouths. Others laughed under their breath. Behind her, Damien slowly lowered his foot, the one he had used to kick her, his face lit with satisfaction. "Oops," he said loudly, fake innocent. "Didn't see you standing there." Mud dripped from her sleeves, her palms stung, her breathing tightened as she wiped her face, blinking mud out of her lashes. No teacher, no principal, no staff member in sight, just her, the mud, and the 6 smirking teens. "Oh, too bad," Ava said sweetly. "Your first day and you already look dirty." The group laughed. Evelyn said nothing. She simply tried to stand, slow, controlled, but Damien stepped forward and nudged her shoulder with 2 fingers, pushing her back toward the mud. "Where are you going?" he asked. "We're not done talking." Jordan chimed in, "Yeah, Miss Hale, don't walk away, that's rude." Evelyn felt her pulse thrum. Not in fear, never in fear, but in restraint. Years of discipline told her to pause, breathe, observe, but a voice deep inside whispered they crossed a line. She stood once more, mud dripping from her palms, and Damien stepped even closer. "What kind of teacher are you?" he sneered. "You can't even defend yourself from a little push. How are you going to survive here? Cry to the principal? Call your mummy?" His friends cackled, delighted. Evelyn stared at him, first at his eyes, then his stance, then his hand twitching impatiently near his side. Her muscles analyzed instinctively. The years of training that she had buried under polite smiles rose like a tide. When she finally spoke, her voice was low. "You shouldn't have done that." Damien blinked. "What?" She sighed softly. "I tried to give you a chance." A flicker of annoyance crossed his face. "What are you going to do, hit me? You're a teacher. I'll get you fired before lunch." Students around them whispered. A crowd had begun forming, slow, curious, anticipating. Evelyn looked at the mud dripping from her shirt, from her hair, from her hands, and then she did something none of them expected. She slowly reached into her pocket, pulled out a thin black cloth belt, folded neatly, and held it out in front of her.